Fred Talks number 4. Today I am going to focus on assessment in the curriculum, and by looking at the curriculum as an overview a little closer, and then we're going to, in the second part of this, in another video, take a look at some opportunities in the curriculum for different and newer types of assessment that you are encouraged to try. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we will start with what I think is a hilarious cartoon. This cartoon kind of epitomizes the paradox to me in the curriculum, that the 21st century learner is expected to be independent, innovative, and critical, and we have to get them there. So they can't do it on their own. The teacher is always going to be the key person. But having said that, there will be opportunities to change some of the approaches historically that you've been using and to move to some different assessment structures. So I'm going to hop around my PowerPoint here, which is also in the shared drive in the curriculum support folder if you want to take a closer look. But let's look at some key things here. Obviously, the curriculum is structured around these basic components, the big ideas, the core competencies, the curricular competencies, and the content. And on the curriculum page, there are supporting materials. So this is the structure inside the structure. And knowing how these things interact with each other is going to help you if you are looking at doing more tweaking to how your practice is going. I'll get into some more of that in a little bit more detail. Another way people are looking at this is a mathematics page. The big ideas are the broad topics in your class, possibly related to hinge questions if you were talking Dylan William. The curricular competencies here are what kids are doing, the skills that they are supposed to gain from your class. And the content is listed over here in the curriculum, the know, what kids are supposed to know by the end. And really the big change in this curriculum is that there's way more of this expected and less of the actual knowing of content. The outcomes are gone as such, and they are being replaced by curricular competencies, these things which are skills and the doing that kids are expected to learn in your class. And we'll get more into what that will look like in an actual classroom by using some other graphics here. One thing to point out again is the core competencies are built into whatever curriculum you have. By having kids think about the big ideas, by have them learn how to do the skills in the curricular competencies and apply those skills through the content, you are going to be hitting a lot of the core competencies for your particular subject and class. And again, if you use the My Blueprint process, you can easily load evidence of self-assessment and evidence of learning into the digitized portfolio. Super easy. So one thing I think the new curriculum is really about is, and this makes it, for a lot of senior teachers like myself and others who have been in it a long time, it's a lot different conceptually, the expectation in a classroom. We are always going to be teaching to a certain degree, like this first graphic, and the kids are going to be taking down our information. But the new curriculum certainly encourages far more of this type approach, where the teacher isn't doing teaching every day. The kids are exploring. They are looking at critical thinking type questions. They are looking at inquiry. They're collaborating on projects and presentations. And there's more of a, I would say, in a way, messy process. You're going to have to break some eggs to make an omelet here. And this old structure is less encouraged in the new curriculum. Here's another graphic that shows this, right? The old system would be, the old system would be content, content test, content, content assignment, content exam, and a loop that we all do. And I think in the new curriculum, it's more of a concept and process-oriented curriculum. Big ideas, content, looking at curricular competencies, creating inquiry questions with kids that they want to explore, setting out criteria that have to be met, sometimes co-creating that. There's self-assessment, obviously here, peer assessment potentially, and in a swirl, working through to a less content-oriented, more process-oriented system. And again, that's a tough one for a lot of senior teachers who, sage on the stage, I'll teach you kids, you learn it up, and I'll give you another quiz in a week or another test. And that's not going to disappear. I still test my kids and my students, but I certainly don't do it as frequently as I used to. I've cut down the number of testing situations, and there's far more, I would say, project-oriented, a lot more collaboration, a lot more, students researching. Here's another graphic which shows this. The idea in the new curriculum, I would say, is that 75% of it is understanding and doing these curricular competencies, and 25% is content and knowledge. Kids are still going to learn things about facts, and they're going to learn things about the world, but really it's also about teaching them how to learn and where to find information and how to organize it. And that higher level thinking, which feeds into critical thinking, the provincial assessments, and that kind of process. This slide shows in a classroom how obviously, and most new curriculum classrooms where teachers are doing a lot using the proficiencies and using inquiry-based and collaborative learning, shared learning, peer assessment, a lot of the DWILY. The teacher's going to be at the front of this doing a lot of the directing. When I start my classes, I obviously have to set up the inquiry process. I have to set up topics for kids. I have to set up either co-created or my created criteria for various projects. And then the students start to take over. They do research, and then they take over teaching each other, presenting topics, sharing information. And it might be a little easier, obviously, in social studies, or I would even argue science classes. But this can happen across the board in a lot of project-oriented classes like the shops and the arts. I think this could be going on and is going on already in the school. Not quite gradeless, but that will be a topic in the next video. And that's a tough one, but I think it's a progression. People will see after a while getting towards learning the curriculum and trying some of the strategies that will allow. So if we look at a classroom, this is a Power Technology 10 classroom. Again, the core competencies are here. The big ideas are here, related possibly to hinge questions if you're working on a question for a particular curricular competency. When you go to the elaborations, which are super handy, you will see the skills that the kids are supposed to be doing in this particular class. Identify, screen, critically analyze, evaluate, identify, develop, iterate, conduct. These are higher level thinking processes. And here is the content on the right side. And for a lot of older teachers, and this is what is frustrating to a lot of older teachers, this curriculum is so thin. I mean, it's quite paper thin. There's a lot of onus on the teacher to be creative in terms of developing some opportunities for students to, master and try some of these curricular competencies. And I think that's why, it's a little harder for more senior teachers, especially people on the old system, with the outcomes being far more detailed and far more of them listed. Also, way more resources. There's almost no resources here with the new curriculum. And it really does come up to the teacher to develop some strategies and some newer lessons. And we'll talk about that in my next video, which will be focusing a bit more on some of the challenges and opportunities in the curriculum to try new things, to try some proficiency scales, to try some performance standards, and even in some cases to go gradeless, and still develop a mark at the end, because in grade 10 to 12 we still have to do that. But the idea, again, in the new curriculum is far more about having kids do things, and the curricular competencies, I think, can be tied more to the proficiency standards than the old outcomes could be. And that's it for today. I will talk to you again in the next video, which will be about diving into some of these assessment opportunities to transform some of the things that you're teaching in your classroom. Thank you, and have a good day.